Hey, ladies and Pat. Um, thanks so much. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. Wait, you know what? I'm gonna run after him. Goodbye. All right, I'm back.
It's my show now.
My show.
Yeah, it's just the Lynn show.
Honestly, isn't that what it always is? It's that good. Let's start off this conversation. By the way, everyone, welcome to Second Helpings. We don't really call it that. It is the recap post show of, Too Complicated for History, where we had Professor Greg Jackson, who does a podcast, History That Doesn't Suck, which is amazing podcast. Please listen to it wherever you get podcasts after you listen to Too Complicated for History. So let's just start off with that. The next thing I want to talk about, and let's put all eyes on Pat here, Isaac's audio. What was going on there? I mean, we finally got a guest who had incredible audio
in the booth. That's hilarious. Yeah, Isaac at the time was traveling, so he was on AirPods. We don't feel bad for him. He was on a very beautiful scenic bay. Like his background was unbelievable. I mean, it was just the most serene place. In fact, I'm sure Isaac would probably prefer to be in that space with that quality of audio more regularly than locked in soon to be his garage.
Fair. What we can do is we'll set up a green screen for him and we can green screen him there. It's just like being there.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll if you've ever seen the show The Last Man on Earth, there is a section where
free plug.
Great show. Yeah. Go watch it. I stand by it. Will Forte, what up? There's a scene where one of Kristen Stewart. No, not Kristen Stewart. It's not Kristen Shaw either.
not Kristen Shaw.
No. It's no.
Oh, come on.
The one from Bridesmaids.
She's great. She's in Bob's Burgers.
Kristen Wiig?
Oh,
yes.
I thought you were talking about.
Yes, thank you. Kristen Wiig. She's in some bunker and she's like, they have like scenic views and she's going through a bunch of things. Spoilers, sorry.
Things are happening. Let's just say he is not the last man on Earth.
Anyway, go watch it.
Not even close.
Not even close. Nope.
In fact, it's just Earth like it is today. It's just
Did I mention that we made homemade cinnamon simple
not
syrup?
On air, you haven't.
For this latte,
Did I mention
it's delicious.
This coffee cup I have is completely empty. It's just for the look.
I have nothing.
All right. Well, an effective start. Yeah. So Isaac was on the road. This time.
No problem. But he's the host of a show. I'm glad he showed up for it. That was awesome. Anyway, regardless of where he is, he's got a great sense of responsibility. So we'll take it. So
that's right.
Here's what.
Yeah. Lynn, you sounded phenomenal.
I thought was so interesting about this episode personally, because I find this really cool, and especially as it relates to history, technology. Super cool. In our docuseries, actually, when we were doing a tour of the Mount Vernon mansion, one of the things that we got from, I think it was Amanda who was giving us a tour, was how interested George Washington was in technology. Like, he always had the coolest gadget. His greenhouse was a cool thing. His fireplace had some cool thing. I thought it was really interesting that, Professor Jackson was talking about technology and how that ultimately led to such huge and incredible changes in basically, the economy and how wealth was understood and how wealth was distributed. So it was like this globalization, which, by the way, is incredibly relevant to today too. We can see how globalization, let's call it social media, instant communication, cell phones, etc., have all sort of
supply chain, the economies of the products, the most of our products are coming from China, right? But like we get them next day, it's
right.
I totally get what you're saying. Like, that was crazy when it's like was it Madison, forgive me, who was like the wealthiest man in Boston. I forget which it wasn't. Maybe it was Patrick Henry.
No, neither one of them.
I know.
In Boston, my friend.
At any rate,
here we go with Lynn utterly destroying me every time, regardless, talking about like the wealthiest man in Virginia versus the wealthiest man in Boston. And now it's like the wealthiest man in the world. And so like that scale of wealth. I mean, tremendously
Not only that,
increased.
in fact, what he said, in addition to that, was they didn't even think about it that way because people didn't think about themselves in terms of who is the wealthiest, who has the most amount of money, because it was so localized. That's incredible.
Yeah, your state was your country. Yeah, that's a good point. Well, and a lot of that's due to the railroads. So you sort of have the same, I think today, it's crazy to think that you can write an email and instantaneously someone in another country gets it and reads it. And I think they were just as shocked that they could be in a different state the same day. They could leave one day, get on a train, and be in a different state the same day. Like, that was crazy to them. They'd never imagined that before because it would take, weeks before.
Right. And just to follow up with that, one of the things that kind of blew my mind was for the meeting of the Constitution, right? This was one of the first times that most of these people had ever met. And it's like,
right.
What? And they're all deciding the fate of the US. And you're like, oh, yeah, because it's not like they could travel to and from, at our pace. Sorry,
right.
I'm going to pull out there's a really funny joke that Louis C.K. talked about
I was
Wi-Fi
just going to bring that up later. I love it. Do it.
Oh, that's so funny.
Could you give it a minute?
Because of the travel. Yeah. I'm flying in a can. I'm like, flying. You're flying. My Wi-Fi doesn't
It's got to go to space. I'm sorry. Could you give it a minute to go to space? Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that is it. And that's not so long ago. It's so, these things we kind of take for granted as far as traveling to and from. I mean, I've lived all across the country, right? Mm-hmm. And these people were like, oh my God, I'm getting a house delivered from the Sears catalog. Like,
right. Yeah.
Oh, that
was
you
know what? I kind of knew that, but when he brought that, he's like, sorry, Amazon, but this has been done before. I'm like, yeah, it's also interesting how, time and technology also changed that. I mean, you could argue that, I don't want to go down this whole rabbit hole, but it's interesting that Amazon sort of replaced Sears, and now Sears are closing and, kind of going off the map.
I think they're closed, dude. I don't think there are any more Sears.
I just saw one the other day, unless it's like the last Blockbuster, like.
Are you... Dude, you didn't see a Sears. You saw the empty shell of what used to be a Sears. They just didn't have the money to demo it because they were so bankrupt.
I didn't see the small dot above Sears.
Yeah, it's haunted by the ghost of
Sears past.
Of Sears past.
But so
nice. We didn't plan that, by the way.
Just great minds think alike, and so do ours. So, but it's cool because it wasn't unfamiliar when Greg Jackson was trying to say, like, you don't understand how crazy that was. And I'm like, actually, I do understand, because that type of change is still happening. In fact, I saw a documentary not too long ago, and who knows where it is now, because this documentary, I said not too long, it's been about 5 years. There was a desire to put a transatlantic submerged tunnel between New York and Paris. You pull the air out, and then you put a maglev train, and in theory, with all the calculations, it would go 5,000 miles per hour, because no wind resistance, no friction resistance. And you could get from New York to Paris in less time than it would take you to commute through New York City. They said like 47 minutes, something like that. Imagine what that would... Hey, I live in New York, but I work in Paris. I'm a baker in Paris, but I live... I commute.
Man,
that's wild.
If only never mind. I'll get off my soapbox. I'm not even going to get on it because anyway, that would be so cool. Also, question to the physicists out there: how do our bodies not turn to jelly inside of that pneumatic tube?
Maybe it's because all the air inside the tube is pressurized. Yeah, it's relative.
It's relative.
It's the same reason why if
you
pop a peanut in your mouth while you're flying, it doesn't shoot through the back of your throat at 600 miles per hour. Gotta figure that one out.
Yeah, but when I start and stop in the plane,
That
I'm
was
here and I'm here. So I'm just trying to understand how I can stop going 5,000 miles
but
an
that's
hour
your
without,
excessive
like
paranoia.
No sudden stops.
I've flown
Yeah.
with you before.
that is definitely not that is the force of jet engines. There's a reason we don't have fighter jet pilots flying us to and from, like there's a reason not everyone gets one of those.
That's fair.
Well, and I think the good point of this is that new technology is scary.
Yeah.
The Blue Ridge Tunnel, which was built, pre-Civil War, it was the longest tunnel. When it was finished built, it was the longest tunnel in the U.S. It's a mile long. One of the first trains that went through it, there wasn't they didn't have an announcement. So people, were sleeping, and then all of a sudden they're in a tunnel. They didn't know what was going on, and they had the windows open. So all of the smoke is now coming in their windows. They think the train's on fire. They start freaking out. One young lady actually jumps out of the train, then gets run over by it. She's the first person who was killed by it. Like, there's a reason, like, technology comes with fear because you don't know.
And
just like
apparently
we think,
consequences, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, definitely consequences, yes. Well,
yeah.
So,
that's crazy.
I wouldn't want to go 5,000 miles.
No, but at the same time...
But in 100 years, that may be, they may be laughing at us for being afraid of that.
Yeah, because then we get shot through lasers to different planets.
They just take us apart, and then we go, what is that?
Yeah, but I was on the bullet train going 180 miles per hour in Japan, and they use a bit of maglev technology, and when you don't feel like you're thinking of a car going 5,000 miles per hour, you're like, blah, 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 blah. Go ahead and isolate that clip. But
that's my new ringtone.
Every time I get a ping on Slack from Jordan, I'll go,
but because of that, you can't even tell. It's really just kind of relative. And that's if you were, and it's only really when the train passes by trees do you even understand how fast you're going, because you have a point of reference. As you're up in the on the bridge part of the train where you're going over water, you don't know. So. I think that's, but to bring it back to history, Theodore Roosevelt, right? TR,
speaking of TR,
was alive in a very interesting time where this kind of change was happening. And I liked that Professor Jackson said that he was a unique president for that as well, for this. He never would have been elected naturally. So,
right.
Naturally
so.
Sorry.
And
in the natural method,
the natural method of democracy,
intended.
Yeah.
So,
as nature
intended. Is for this reason would he have won your presidential cage match there, Lynn, back in the day?
Whoa!
Oh, for many reasons he would have won the presidential cage match. Come on now.
What?
I wouldn't take on TR.
Lynn, we need more info. I was so like presidential
it's like celebrity
cage
death
matches.
Match
What is this?
Yeah. It's like the ultimate, it's like the ultimate history nerd fun, where we'd set it up sort of like how you have your final four, how you have all of your teams and you go down. So we'd have our, a lot of presidents, and then you'd pick the ones that you thought would win. And then you basically just duke it out with the person who has that president. And, you could go by intelligence, you could go by physical strength, sometimes even stupidity could be on your side. So it's really just how much you know about that president and imagining them in a cage match.
That's awesome.
I think it should be a documentary.
A documentary
or a show, or maybe a
I have many ideas on how we can get that going. But if you join Into History, going to do a plug here. If you join Into History, intohistory.com/2C4H, we will definitely are going to start a presidential cage match in the Discord, and we're gonna see what happens with that.
I love it.
So join us on Into History. Actually, here comes this, brought to you by Into History and Primary Source Media. I'm doing a little sponsor here. History That Doesn't Suck is also part of that platform. Really great premium content. You have access to us in the Discord. You have ad-free listening for us, History That Doesn't Suck, and many other shows. So check it out, and you'll also get to talk to us about celebrity cage matches.
And you know what?
Presidential cage matches.
Yeah.
Right. They're celebrities.
Yeah, and I mean, we need as many, as much help as we can get to argue on the sides of the different presidents to really understand, who deserves to win.
And if we're really lucky, maybe we hire some people to design some presidents in like a WWE game, and we can actually simulate how it would go down.
Now I know this
can
goes
you imagine
without.
I was just going to say, can you imagine how girthy Washington's thighs would be?
Can I?
Yeah. Getting the vapors.
Yeah. Listen, I will say, I know this goes without saying, but of course we want some civility with our death matches. Let's keep it, civil. Yeah.
I mean, civility's
no. We're putting them in a cage. One walks out. Just to be clear. Yeah.
Hey, while we're in this plugging mood, did you know that the audience can participate in this very conversation?
How?
Well,
how, Jordan?
Well, I actually don't know. Pat, you want to tell them?
Yeah, going forward,
this was planned.
Yeah, I know this is a mess.
Wait.
we are going to be live broadcasting these through YouTube soon. So if you do join Into History, you'll also be able to get early access to this. And we will be monitoring comments so people can comment live. It'll be a lot of fun. We're still working out kind of like the best way to do it so that it looks good and is fun, and we can interact with you the best way possible. So forgive me for the delay, but we'll be up soon, and it'll be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for.
Also, it's all ads all the time. We have started a new daily podcast starring the one and only Jordan Slow.
Woo! Yeah.
Oh, there he goes. Now he's.
Hang on.
God.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Historical birthdays today, wherever you get your podcasts. Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's on our YouTube channel, delivering daily. And if you like birthdays, or you have a birthday and you like history, you'll like these two. So they're fun, super fast. Check it out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else we want to
90
plug?
seconds.
Yes. They won't take up too much of your time, but you'll learn.
Perfect. Hey, why don't we cue the music and do a live read ad right now? Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
Pardon the interruption.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Dude, when you say that, it just brings me.
It's so similar to like what I hear. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, that haunts me.
So
go ahead.
I did just want to bring up one thing about the episode that I thought was really insightful, which is like, I'll put myself out for a minute. I'm not a huge fan of the way consolidation is happening in the free market, with like 7 companies owning everything, like where it's like Comcast, Pepsi Corporation that owns Disney owns literally almost all media, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But I did like that when they talk about breaking up monopolies, it was TR did it in a meaningful way when like they were breaking laws, or they were doing things that had an impact. Whereas I forget who followed up, but it was just breaking up monopolies because they're big. And it's like, if they're
right.
I just thought that was really insightful and interesting, and not a perspective I had ever heard. And I like the idea that, you know what? Yeah. Like if a massive giant monopoly is taking care of its people, sure, by all means. But if it's like no healthcare and, people are eating on food stamps, gut it. But that's my own personal opinion. I just thought it was a really cool perspective.
Meaningful.
It is. And I think it like Jordan mentioned, it's why he would have been unelectable. And of course, he only became president because McKinley was assassinated. And so maybe we should think about how the president who could have never been elected maybe did the best job as far as not towing a party line. I think that's what Greg kept saying, is he wasn't beholden to a party because neither one brought him into office. So he didn't owe anybody anything, and he could just, do what he thought was right. And I don't,
the theory of democracy and the theory of people not being beholden to stuff like that. What a joy. And
I mean, I'll say no more than this one single sentence, but that could go both ways, right? It takes a good person that, when given the opportunity to not be beholden
Yeah.
can make the best choice versus could also be doing the opposite. So
Absolutely.
in the most ideal sense, it is super awesome.
Right.
Yeah, to not have politicians owned by anything
Blank
or
slate.
anyone.
Let's start over with politics in general in this country. Hey, so here's one last thing I want to bring up. He hated to be called Teddy, and yet history remembers him as such. In fact, they named a bear after him.
Right, the teddy bear. So it's kind of funny.
Wow.
I mean, if you don't love
it's a nice irony, I think, that he's fondly remembered as Teddy Bear or Teddy Roosevelt, and he hated that. I mean, that is really interesting. I have to wonder.
Maybe it was called that as a kid.
Yeah, I have to wonder which one of his political enemies just continued to call him Teddy after, so that it would stay in the mainstream as such.
Yeah, you have to wonder why he hated it.
Well, it's
and if
it's definitely a little patronizing, like it's Teddy when it's like my name's Theodore.
Well, I guess when you want to be like a big masculine, man. Teddy does sound
none of this corner,
Teddy bear. Theodore.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I can't breathe, Papa. Hit the bag, Teddy. I'm not Teddy.
Call me Theodore.
I am Theodore.
Because that is what his voice sounded like. Yeah, I find this super interesting. Maybe our audience will find this kind of interesting. So obviously, I had a past in Hollywood, and whenever you meet huge celebrities, we don't think about this ever. I didn't even drop a name. Whenever you meet
Hollywood,
Hollywood. Whenever you meet huge celebrities, we as a society always call them by their first and their last name, like the way it reads on their SAG card, right? Like,
right.
It's so interesting because, like, Anthony Hopkins doesn't go by Anthony Hopkins. You don't meet him and go like, "Hey, Anthony Hopkins." He goes by Tony.
Maybe he does.
And, like,
that's funny.
He goes by so it's interesting. And whenever I've talked about someone like that and use the name, let's say Tony in that scenario, people are like, "Oh, Tony." Oh, and I'm like, "Yeah," and you're like, "That's your BFF."
BFF, aren't you?
But every
fancy?
time you talk to him, you go, "Hey, Anthony Hopkins, question," and he's. It's very interesting. So, I wonder if that society always does that though. So Theodore Roosevelt is how you remember him, but really, he goes by Theo, and maybe people were calling him Teddy, and that's why, his mom called him Teddy and he didn't like that. And it's just interesting to hear how that kind of stuff, works its way down.
Actually, there is a real chance. So go check out the episodes that Greg did because they're awesome. But there is a chance that Teddy may have been a name that either his wife and mother or potentially, or referred to him, and they both died on the same day. So
could be right.
So maybe it was like, that's what they, oh dude.
Who can answer this question?
His story is insane.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect.
Go check it out.
Yeah, you really should check it out. Again, after watching or listening to this episode of Too Complicated for History.
Yes.
If you're still interested after hearing
listen to us first.
This show.
Yeah. And all of the advertisements.
We're
a monopoly now. We're just selling our
brought to you by Monopoly. By
the board game that makes you hate your family.
All right, guys. I think we've done enough plugging. Greg Jackson, History That Doesn't Suck, Into History, Too Complicated for History. What else we got?
2c4hpod.com.
2c4hpod.com.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Lynn and Pat and Jordan, for joining us today. You're welcome. And please check us out in another 2 weeks. We'll be doing another episode.
Please subscribe, click the bell, and also just know that we now have 3 or 4 podcasts and shows on our YouTube channel. So they will be releasing daily, weekly, every other week. We have an insane amount of content coming. So just brace yourselves. All the history.
And if you like
Yes,
Yeah,
just
and if
visit
you
us
like
every
stuff
day.
like this, drop us a line. Put it in the comments. Tell us what you want to hear more of, what you want to hear less of even. We want to give you what you want as long as it's history related and what we want.
Thanks, Patrick. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks, Jordan. You're welcome.
Thank you,
Bye
George
all.
Sloan.
See you guys.